your suspicion?
It looks like you're carrying a gun in your back pocket. I'm stopping to make sure you're carrying it properly. You don't
Have
have
you
to...
ensured that it's not a firearm?
No, you keep turning so I can't see it. You don't have to be...
Wait, stop it right there.
Well, you're
Stop
being
it.
one to me.
First of all, what is this foggy place? It literally looks like the PS1 Silent Hill game, where everything was just fog. Or an M. Night Shyamalan movie. I don't know. This is a weird place. And second of all, why didn't she let him walk a little bit further and to see what was in his back pocket? It didn't look like a gun. If anything, it looked like a Jedi lightsaber. But she was like, no. Was this guy just bored and wanted something to do? And this was the guy that crossed in front of her. And she's like, stop right there. It looks like a gun. And mind you, okay, I'm gonna be straight here. This guy, right away, the way he answered her, it seemed confrontational. You know what I mean? Which to her kind of escalated. You know what I mean? She was like, "What was that right there?" And the guy's like, "Whoa, what do you want to know?" All right, okay. Even if he answered like that, what is her excuse for stopping him? I mean, grounded. He looked suspicious? How did he look suspicious? He was just a guy walking by. This makes no sense. This looks like she was bored. She has nothing else to do. And she just decided to stop this guy.
Don't, you don't...
Where did she stop you for? For a walking stick.
Oh, he thinks her partner is going to help him. Wrong, buddy.
Where's your wallet at, sir? I don't have a wallet on me.
Okay, where's your ID?
Where's your ID in the pocket? Which volume? You're not allowed to search me.
Here, reasonable suspicion only existed as long as Deputy Godey believed that Mr. Hodges might be openly carrying a firearm.
Sir, you legally blind? Yes, I
Wait,
am.
stop. The guy just showed her that he was using the thing in the back pocket was a walking stick. And it should have been dropped right there, right? She should have been like, okay, it was a walking stick, move along, sir. But instead, her partner comes, and they right away put him in cuffs. Why? I mean, this guy was not really being that confrontational. He was more like being stern. Or maybe a little bit annoyed that he was being stopped for no reason. But right away, they put him in handcuffs. Like, I don't understand. Why didn't she drop it when he showed her that was just a walking stick?
I had to walk up here in the dark. The jury did, which was canceled. Weren't you using your stick? You don't have to use your stick all the time? Not all the time.
All right, Mr. Hodges. Was that hard?
It's gonna be. I want your name and your badge. You know what? Put yourself for resisting.
Okay. All right, let's go.
Sergeant Randy Harrison assists Deputy Bodie in placing Mr. Hodges in handcuffs and searching his pockets. Police may properly handcuff a person whom they are temporarily detaining when circumstances reasonably justify the use of such restraint. However, the court clarified that, quote, "We do not suggest that police may routinely handcuff suspects in order to conduct an investigative stop. In this situation, a court would probably hold that the officers had no reasonable suspicion to continue to detain Mr. Hodges."
Notice how the police officer said to him, was that so hard, sir? Like, was that so hard to just answer my question? Which he did. He just did it in a rude way. And I want to address something that I saw in a comment in this video where somebody said, why didn't he just answer her? Or like, why didn't he just abide by what she was saying? And I understand that. Listen, if it was me, if this happened to me, I would have been very courteous or very polite to the officer, and I would just respond to her. That is if it was me, all right? So I understand why the guy said that in the comment. But at the same time, you don't have to, all right? Because she doesn't really have a cause to stop you, all right? And this feels like, when you're a kid and your parent is in a bad mood, so they just want to restrict you in some way or have some authority over you just because they want to have something to do. You know what I mean? Sure, you can abide by that, but you don't have to. Just because they think they're above you. You know what I mean? And then when the guy says, give me your badge, the other guy, her partner, he says, just put him in detention or, just detain him. Meaning, if you see this whole situation, the cops get mad because this guy is not giving them the respect that they want for a situation that's unwarranted in the first place. He doesn't have to give them the respect they want. You know what I mean? He knows he's not being suspicious of anything. Yet they're kind of mad. They're kind of mad that he's not, being submissive towards them. Like, and just because of that, they detain him and they put the cops on him. Just because of that. I mean, you shouldn't be able to do that. That makes no sense, bro.
And that even if they did, the use of handcuffs and the search of Mr. Hodges' pockets were illegal because he showed no indication that he was a flight risk, and he had already proven he was not armed when he demonstrated that he was carrying a cane and not a firearm.
He did demonstrate all that.
Mr. Hodges implies he will be filing a complaint and asks for the officers' names and badge numbers. Sergeant Harrison tells Deputy Bodie to, quote, put him in jail for resisting. Whoever shall resist,
they were just mad
or
at him.
oppose any officer in the lawful execution of any legal duty without offering or doing violence to the person of the officer shall be guilty of a misdemeanor of the first degree. In general, courts have concluded that individuals can be convicted under this statute for refusing to comply with a lawful order from an officer. For instance, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals held in the 2008 case of Vadimski v. arrested for resisting and obstructing an officer's efforts to detain him during a lawful Terry stop by attempting to leave the scene. In the same vein, in the 2007 case of Zivojinovic v. Barner, the 11th Circuit cause existed to arrest an individual for resisting when he, quote, disobeyed a command by members of law enforcement as he was escorted off a property he had been asked to leave. However, it is essential to note that both the statute and the relevant case law require that an individual will oppose a lawful command in order to be convicted of resisting. Given the precedent on the issue, a court would likely determine that Mr. Hodges...
Lawful is the key word right there. Because this basically is a couple of cops, basically one cop, the police officer, the female police officer, decided to stop this guy and start some shit with him. And when she was proven wrong and she hasn't really no cause to detain him, she still detains him because he gave her attitude. So basically, the whole message here is like, even when a cop is wrong and he's detaining you for the wrong reasons, he wants you to still show him respect, even though he's at fault here. He's in the wrong here. He shouldn't. This guy doesn't have to show any respect towards her like that because he hasn't done anything wrong. Mind you, again, if it was me, I would be way more civilized and way more courteous than he was. But like under the law, he hasn't done anything wrong, and you just can't charge him. Like as a cop, you just can't charge him because you're wrong. You just can't charge him for giving you attitude when you're wrong. Like, this makes no freaking sense, bro. Like, the cop should have just dropped it.
Given the precedent on the issue, a court would likely determine that Mr. Hodges did not violate Section 843.02 of the Florida statutes because the officers could not lawfully detain him or require that he identify himself once it became evident that he was not carrying a firearm, and therefore were not engaged in the lawful execution of a legal duty.
I want your name and badge number 2, sir.
Have a seat.
Will pick my property up, please.
I sure will, after you have a seat.
You want to pull this out of my back pocket?
Sure. 42.
Mr. Hodges was charged with resisting without violence in violation of Section 843.02 of the Florida statutes. However, the charge was dropped on November 7th, 2022 by State Attorney John Durrett, who stated in a court filing that, quote, after having examined all known evidence, it is the determination of the undersigned that said cause does not warrant criminal prosecution against the defendant.
No shit.
According to a video statement from Sheriff Mark Hunter, which was released on Facebook, the department determined on November 11th that both officers had violated policy during the interaction. As a result, Sergeant Harrison was immediately demoted in days and will not be eligible for any favorable action for 2 years. Deputy Godey was suspended without pay for 2 days, and both officers will be required to undergo remedial civil rights training. Overall, the Columbia County officers get an F for illegally detaining, handcuffing, and searching Mr. Hodges, demanding that he identify himself when he was under no legal obligation to do so, and arresting him when he refused to comply with their unlawful orders and threatened to file a complaint against them for their unconstitutional actions. Although it is possible that Deputy Godey initially mistook Mr. Hodges' cane for a firearm, throughout the encounter recorded on her body camera, the cane is clearly visible and does not look remotely similar to any firearm, making her claims highly unreasonable at best. It is evident that the only crime Mr. Hodges committed was refusing to unquestioningly comply with the officer's unlawful commands, as they continued to detain and handcuff him after he had clearly demonstrated he was not involved in any criminal activity. While I commend Sheriff Hunter for actually taking disciplinary action against the officers involved, I seriously question whether the abusive and authoritarian attitudes these officers demonstrated towards Mr. Hodges can be corrected with additional training. And I hope Sheriff Hunter will take more permanent steps if another issue arises with either of these officers. Mr. Hodges gets an A+ for knowing, understanding, and defending his constitutional rights, refusing to comply with the officer's illegal orders, and taking appropriate action after this interaction. Throughout the encounter, Mr. Hodges repeatedly communicated to the officers that he did not consent to their actions and that they were violating his rights. And although the officers did not seem to care, Mr. Hodges did not allow their indifference to the Constitution to dissuade him from exercising his rights. I commend Mr. Hodges for having the courage to stand firm in the face of police overreach and to immediately file a complaint and pursue legal action against the officers involved. And I wish him the best as he seeks to defend his rights in court.
You know, that female cop, or that police officer, could have avoided this whole thing if she just waited like 3 seconds and watched the guy pass by and look at his back pocket to see if it was a gun or not. And since the guy was no threat, it was just basically walking, she could have waited a little bit, and if she saw it was a gun, she could have stopped him. The guy wasn't running away, he wasn't fleeing. It was just a guy walking on the sidewalk, all right? But no, the guy, she decided to stop him. And when the guy gave her attitude, she was like, okay, bro, I'm a police officer, you gotta respect me. And when the guy showed her that she was wrong, she took it personal, right? That's the problem with this whole thing, that this detainment was just based on a personal, they were personally offended that the guy wasn't as submissive as they wanted to be, even though they were wrong in this whole situation, and the guy knew they were wrong and that he hasn't done anything wrong, and yet both of the police officers were like, bro, we don't care that you're wrong, you gotta respect us, all right? If we tell you to stop, you fucking stop. If we tell you to jump, you fucking jump. We're the fucking police, all right? I mean, bro, again, like I've said multiple times, if it was me, I would have been very cordial and would have complied. But again, you don't have to. Just because they have that power over you. If they don't have any valid reason to do this, they shouldn't be able to get away with it. And that's the whole problem that happened here. And listen, I don't hate cops, all right? I know this is the second video that I reacted to about cops. It's not, I react to these videos and I'm interested in this, not because I hate cops. It's mainly because I'm interested in your rights as an individual. You know what I mean? And I don't like when cops, who we give as society this position of authority, this position of power over us, I don't like when cops use their personal feelings or their personal vendettas against someone to abuse that power.